welcome to Crystal Stairs ECE Resource Center hands-on learning activity. So this is the first month of the year, and we read a really exciting story this month called Don't Hug Doug. At the end of the story video, we did start the conversation about how we like to be greeted, and we hope that's something that you'll continue with the children. And we want to share a hands-on learning activity that we can do with the children to kind of keep that conversation, start that conversation and keep it going.
And so the big main word here is boundaries, understanding boundaries. Now we know that young children think in pictures. It's difficult for them to have a mature self-talk first. So anytime you want to introduce something more metaphorical later, like boundaries as human beings, we first have to start off with a physical interpretation of what that is. So Ms. Tandra, what do we have here that's going to introduce us to physical boundaries?
So this is actually going to be an art activity, but we're going to use tape. So this is painter's tape. I recommend that you use painter's tape because what we're going to do is use the painter's tape on the paper. The children can paint, and then when you pull the tape off, it shows where the clear boundaries were. So this is called tape resist art. I do think that, like the point you made about children being very visual and very literal, this is a good way to start the conversation because we're going to create a pattern using the tape, and it's going to have very clear, distinct boundaries. So you want to go ahead and we can just like show them how it looks. So what you're going to do is just allow the children to create whatever designs they want on their paper. So you want to tear some of this off?
Sure.
And we can just, let me see. Should have got it started for you.
It's okay, I got it.
And the reason why we recommend painter's tape is it will keep everything underneath it protected. If you use regular Scotch tape, it may rip off a piece of the paper. So being intentional about the materials you use will help it feel successful for the children.
Absolutely.
So always want to test out these things with kids. I mean yourself first before you introduce it to children to make sure it has the intention that you wanted for the outcome.
And I've actually done this as a group activity with a canvas. And so every child that I had in my group got a piece of tape and we put it on there, and then each child got to color their own box. And when we revealed it, we had a masterpiece that represented all of us together. So that could be another part of the conversation as
Yes, and I see that. Just make sure, again, for all of you educators and at home, if you have lovely furniture, please make sure you put something on top of your table and cover it, because we want to make sure that the children have a lot of fun in doing this, and they're naturally doing this without any worry. So I'm having fun.
Okay, so what Miss Lupe is doing is just putting the tape on. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You're going to just allow the children to put it on however they want. The magic that's going to happen is when the tape comes off, so you'll be able to see the clear distinction of what we're calling boundaries. So that's a new word that we're introducing to children.
Yes, it is.
And not just to children. I do want to talk a little bit about just the adult experience as well. The way we were raised as children doesn't always match the way we grow into adults. Yes. And so some of us may still be teetering between what boundaries were acceptable in my upbringing based on my culture, my family, group expectations, and now what boundaries do I want to keep that are important to me, and what boundaries am I ready to enforce or let go of, and how do I start to let my loved ones know that I do still love you. I just have this new boundary that I really hope that you would respect.
Yes.
Have either of you kind of had those situations?
Yes, definitely. I know that when I was a child, as soon as either my grandmother or any guest came, my mother will push me and say, go say hi, go give a hug, and that was like, I felt like I had to. I didn't have an option. So definitely that made me feel, as an adult, I started, analyzing and thinking like, wait a minute, sometimes I will not like to receive that. I will not like a hug, or I would now be more conscious of asking, just like our friend in our story.
Yes. And I love how you said conscious, and that is actually the resource, conscious discipline, that we're sharing today as well.
About the non-touch and the touch. So we want to make sure that we are very, very alert and conscious in our acts, especially for those children or those adults that prefer not to be touched to.
To give them options.
To give them
Some
options.
days may be different.
You're
Some
absolutely
days
right.
I may want a hug.
Yes.
And
Yes.
some days I may just need my space, and a smile and a wave will suffice.
I think that was one of the things that I really loved about this book is it was just really reminding us that it's okay. One person said they like hugs on Tuesdays. One person said no, never. And Doug even, only if you're my mom at bedtime.
Right.
So I think really empowering children to set and create their own boundaries and honoring that. And the other thing that I think is interesting is knowing that some days it may change, and that's okay too. So on Tuesdays, I may want the hug, I may want the high five. Wednesday, just smile and wave. And I think this conversation is so powerful to me. I feel like we could be here all day because there's so many layers to it. So this is how we would present it to children, to start the conversation with children, but even us as adult caregivers, as parents, learning our boundaries, learning how to speak up and give voice to that. Ms. Michelle, now you brought a resource for adults as well.
Yes, I did. So I'm on my own personal journey to understanding the boundaries that are helpful for my life. And so a book that I just recently read that I adored, that we'd love to share with you all, is called The Sugar Jar. And the representation of the sugar is your inner love and your inner worth. And how much of that are you willing to spill out to everyone, and how much are you keeping for yourself?
I'm excited to read that.
And so it's just a really great self-help tool to understand, because as we all know as educators and parents and providers, children don't learn these things because we teach it to them. They learn it from watching us behave.
Yes.
So if we are growing and introducing boundary concepts, we're really helping our world understand how we want to have choices in this new day and age instead of being forced upon.
Yes, I think our children pick up on our behavior and our modalities. So we want to make sure that we also model that it's okay that we need to ask, and we need to ask and be respectful and very mindful of our behaviors, such as, asking, hey, would you like me, can I give you a hug? And if this person or this child says no, we want to make sure that we don't take it personal.
Right.
That it's okay. They might not want to hug
It's
that
not
moment.
personal.
It's not
Right.
personal.
Yes.
Another concept in there in conscious discipline, it teaches you Q-tip, Q-T-I-P. Quit taking it
Oh,
personally.
wow. I
Yeah,
love that.
it is Q-tip. I actually have that in my other phone case. It was a Q-tip. I had Q-tip because that is very important. It's not about you.
Right.
It's not about you.
I love this conversation. As you see, we could talk about this all day. I'm holding this because I wanted to share this before we go. So the final part of this project, once you let the art semi-dry a little bit,
Mhm.
you're going to just go ahead and remove the painter's tape.
That's
and it's
beautiful.
going to
Yeah,
try to
help
pull
you.
it without tearing it. This is why we use painter's tape, so that, as you see, it just peels right off. It's not tearing the paper. And this shows where the tape was. So this indicates the boundary.
That's beautiful.
And it's a perfect representation of the human experience again, because a lot of boundaries are not obvious. You do have to
That's a
peel
good
back
point.
layers of human beings to understand why it's there or what's happening. So as you continue to pull back the layers of yourself and the layers of this art project, check out these beautiful boundaries that separate all the colors of us and our
absolutely.
feelings and things that have happened. And
Yes.
what a beautiful representation.
And it starts with this.
Yes.
You want to start it with this, and this is a beautiful art piece that does represent your boundaries. And so how everyone also has different ways of, welcoming, either it's a non-touch or a touch. those colors are the representation as well.
I love that. Thank you so much. We thank you for joining us. We want to just thank you for your continued dedication to children and families. And just a reminder, we're all learning, we're all growing together.
Yes.
Yes,
Very
and
much.
so we hope you get a chance to try this activity with the children. And we hope to see you here again on the next First Fridays.
Bye-bye.
Bye.